never rests.
Counting colors in the sky. What a thrilling time to be alive.
What is up, everybody? It's the Georgia Show. I am Jake Rowe. He is Rusty Mansell. The other, he is Palmer Toms. And we got some college football playoff reaction. We got some preview of Georgia-Missouri this week. We got some ads from our sponsors. We got chopping wood. We got a lot to talk about. Recruiting too. It wouldn't be a Georgia Show without recruiting. Rusty, what'd you think of those college football playoff rankings last night?
You know, you really want to see who's fifth and sixth, to be honest with you, because this is kind of where the starting point, and you figure Georgia's 1, 2, 3, or 4 at least. So you see Georgia at number 2, and truthfully, man, I think from Georgia football, social media kind of sets the tone for everything. You don't even talk about it because there's so much in front of you. You control your own destiny. I mean, a lot of people do, but for Georgia in particular, you win, you're in. And you know, I think that it's going to be interesting. This could get real. This could get real wild. With some one-loss teams and all that, it could get real wild if you have 5, kind of undefeated there too. So we'll see how this plays out. But for Georgia's perspective, you start number 2. You got number 12 this week, number 10 next week, and number 17 the following week on the road. You got a lot of work in front of you. You control your own destiny, and it is literally week by week for Georgia right now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's best case scenario for Georgia. I think best case scenario for Georgia would have been my incorrect prediction of number 5. Wow, that would have been incredible. But you're right, and that's kind of an indirect way of me agreeing with you there. Like, are you in the top 6? Are you in the top 7? You need to be within striking distance with enough gas to get home. And gas in this instance is enough games left to play, enough data points. Some maybe some teams in front of you, maybe some teams that can help you jump over. I mean, you look at Ohio State and Michigan, obviously somebody's going to get picked off there. There's a lot that can happen. I swear to God, chaos is coming. It does every year, different to varying levels. I mean, I don't know if we're going to see it like we did in 2007, Rusty, but I do think that we will see it at some point in a week. We've already seen it a little bit with Kansas knocking off Oklahoma. Palmer, I had the thought, you got this thing pulled up here, best producer out there. You got this thing pulled up here, this Bloody Tuesday. That was Georgia's response to rankings night.
And they all went out at the same time, if you notice.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it was within a few minutes. Like Ohio State had an edit done. Michigan had an edit.
Yeah.
Everybody had an edit. In Georgia, it was like, we don't have an edit, dude. We're working,
Yeah. And that blew me away, man. That kind of, but it blew me away, but it didn't surprise me because let me tell you, been there, done that. That's the kind of stuff that you do. That's the way you can afford to think, because being number 2 for Georgia, Palmer, just doesn't blow their skirt up, for lack of a better word. It doesn't really get them going. And I mean, what was it like last night when you guys did anybody even bother to ask Kirby about what he thought about where they might be ranked?
No. And as I'm scrolling through the Ohio State thing, unless I completely missed it here, I don't see their number 1 tweet anymore.
Yeah, they took it down.
Unless the best producer in the business can't find it anymore, Ohio State took that down. So no, nobody asked Kirby what he thought about it. He got asked on the teleconference about it today, and he gave the exact answer that you would think, that it doesn't matter where you start, it matters where you finish. And so he knows that. I mean, like you said, it's been there, done that. Honestly, I was a little surprised that Ohio State and Michigan put stuff out. Florida State's been in the college football playoff before. They all, but Ohio State and Michigan have been there recently. They were there last year. So everybody here understands that this first ranking does not matter. It sets it's interesting because I think it sets a precedent for what this specific committee values. And I think that, what we see from this is this committee values resume, and Georgia has a really strong shot over the next 3 weeks with the 6th toughest remaining schedule to put together the country's best resume. You got to win the games. That's what matters. But the first ranking does not matter. Remember who was ranked first in the opening initial one back in 2014?
Mississippi State.
Mississippi State. Jake, you're muted. Tennessee was number 1 last year. If I'm not mistaken, I think 3 of the 4 teams that were in that first one back in 2014 did not make the playoff. Ole Miss was in there. I want to say Auburn was in there. None of those teams made the playoff. Tennessee was number 1 last year. They lost 4 days later, as Georgia fans remember. So it does not matter. It does not matter one bit. These players know that. Kirby knows that. Everybody around the country knows that. But it's something for us media folk to talk about.
Absolutely. And so JD Piquel, I feel like had a pretty good, thing on this today, pretty good analogy. And he said, it's like when you're a college student, that first test you take every semester, that's what the first rankings are. So listen, that ain't the end of the story, right? There's a long way to go. That's like me in econ and macro econ back in the day when I got that first test back and I only took 3 and it was like a 52. And that was with the curve. I knew I had to make 2 A's to kind of bring that thing up to a B. But you know where you got to go from there. You know what's ahead of you when those first rankings come out. And, we've seen Georgia 1, we've seen Georgia 3, we've seen Georgia further back. But every year that Georgia has been in the top 4 in the initial rankings, they've found a way to make it to the playoff in the national championship game. And they're in prime position and control of their own destiny, all of that stuff. And that's just the way it is. And another team that's number 14 right now, but is also firmly in control of their own destiny is Missouri. That's a long way back to be, right? But Missouri, you went out.
They're number 12.
Oh, they're number 12. That's right. Yeah,
12,
number 12.
They're 14 in
Missouri,
the AP and the coaches.
Missouri's 12, and they control their own destiny too. I mean, they beat Georgia, they're jumping. They beat Tennessee, they're jumping. I mean, it's just win the SEC championship game at that point. So that's why I think Georgia is kind of that. Listen, they're fortunate to get Missouri at home right now. I mean, there's just all there is to it. And let's get into this matchup a little bit and let's talk about that for just a second. Before we do, though, Palmer, let's talk about some prize picks kind of going into this game.
Yeah, prize picks. Jake, me and you got
we actually have to recap what we did last week because prize picks doesn't get the Georgia picks up in time for us to pick them before the week starts.
Yeah, that's just the way we roll here. So Jake and I hit the Delta Sky Club on our way down to Jacksonville and got to prize picking. And if you guys are lucky like us, you could be some big winners. Know a little bit about Georgia football and you could win your picks for the week as well. We had Carson Beck over on his yardage, under on the more on the yardage, less on the interceptions. We liked Daijun Edwards. If you look at our social medias, there's a great graphic out there that Jake put in a request for with Daijun putting up numbers as a running back, and We had a good feeling that the receiving distribution was going to be spread around a little bit, but we also had a feeling that Ladd McConkey was going to have a big day. That was one of my players to pick, players to watch for the week, and we went over with more on his receiving yardage. But you could get in on the action over at Prize Picks as well in the app, on the website. Use promo code DAWGS, DAWGS, and receive a full match of your first deposit. 100% instant deposit match up to $100. If you deposit $100, Prize Picks will give you $100. How does it work? You pick 2 to 6 players, and whether they will go more or less than the Prize Picks projections, and you can win up to 25 times your money on any entry. There's some good ones out there later in the week with Georgia. So keep an eye out for that. Certainly a exciting way to play daily fantasy sports, player projections, more, less, and entries. All of the above, some exciting stuff going on over at Prize Picks. So use promo code DAWGS to get a 100% match on your first deposit up to $100.
All right, let's talk about Georgia-Missouri because this is a huge game. Did an X's and O's breakdown of them today over at DawgsHQ. Rusty had some things to watch as far as the matchup goes yesterday over at the site. Get on over there, $1 for a month. You need to be there, I promise. Rusty, what has been kind of on your mind through the first 3 days of this week concerning this matchup?
It's going to be what decision you make. Is Georgia going to come after Brady Cook? Or are they going to sit back? Because it's hard to cover this type. It's not just Luther Burden. I mean, it's Theo Weiss and it's Mookie and all these guys Mookie Cooper. It's all these guys that you got to cover. And if you sit back in zone and you kind of don't pressure him, I don't know that you can cover these guys for 3 or 4 seconds. I don't think you can. So the decision is going to be how much are you going to come at him? And I just think back at, the offenses that Georgia has faced. Now, I will tell you this, as opposed to Hendon Hooker last year, who I thought really could hurt Georgia, and they were able to stop that. But I think Brady Cook is a little bit more athletic. He can hurt you more with his legs, and that's going to be, I look back in the Missouri game, and, I'll just bring this name up because this was the person they inserted for that game. And, Jake, you may know the quarterback. I can't remember who played quarterback in Missouri that year, but you remember the package that Adam Anderson was a freshman. He wasn't playing for Georgia, but they put him in as a spy on third down, and they brought the house, and they had him basically spy the quarterback. And it was kind of out of nowhere. You know what I mean? It was specific for that offense. And I can't remember who Missouri had. They had a very athletic quarterback that year. It would have been 2018, I think, fall of 2018. But you look at Georgia and what will they do? You know what I mean? Because they bring Smile Munden a lot, and they bring Pop a lot, and they bring Jalen Walker in on their rabbit package, that third down pass blitz. And they also had Damian Wilson in there. So what will Georgia do defensively different? Because I think if you blitz him, you worry about him breaking, contain, and hurting you with his legs. Can you have a spy on him? I'll never forget talking to our good buddy, Barton Simmons, after the first year at Vanderbilt. And he was like, I asked him in the offseason, I said, what do you think about Georgia? He said, I'll tell you what I think about Georgia. Their damn nose guard, who was Devontae White, they had him spying our quarterback. It was like the damnedest thing. It was the damnedest thing I've ever seen. You know what I mean? Like they had a nose guard spy. He would drop in coverage, and Georgia does things like that. They'll get specific against teams, and this guy can hurt you vertically, and he can hurt you with his legs. And he's a very experienced quarterback. So I don't know if that was Drew Lock in 18.
It was.
It was. Yeah, they spied him a good bit as far as with his legs and those type of things. So when you look at this, the game within the game, how does Glenn Schumann and I can't wait to see the first third down package because I want to see what they're going to do. I have a feeling Jalen Walker's going to be in there. Smile Munden's going to be in there. Do they play? Is CJ Allen healthy? Do they give themselves a little bit more speed? Maybe take Pop out there. You put CJ Allen in to give you a little bit of speed on third down. And I'm just kind of that's the football nerd in me. I can't wait to see that third down package. And does Georgia do anything different? Because I said it the other night. I said it in a story this week. The only time that I know of that I've heard Kirby Smart talk about release time was last year on Hendon Hooker. And he said they were getting the ball off at like 2.1. Well, he said Missouri's getting off at 2.2. I think that's what he said this week.
Yeah, something sub 2.5.
Yeah, so that tells you they are very conscious on how quick you got to get to them. And then when you go back and watch that behind the scenes, that SEC network behind the scenes on Georgia, Tennessee last year, how much they worked on you got to get there in 2.5 or you're not going to get it. So I bet you the last 2 days that Georgia has worked on getting off blocks, pressure, you got to get there. Those corner blitzes, you got to get there, or the ball's going to be out of his hands. So the game within the game defensively for me, I can't wait to see what Georgia does defensively, especially on third down.
Well, that third down package, the beauty of that, especially the dime, right? When they go 6 defensive backs,
Yeah.
is they do take Jamon Dumas-Johnson out, and it's usually either Xavier Sori or Smile Munden. Since Smile Munden's gotten healthy, Smile Munden's kind of that lone inside linebacker, and then they bring the speed in from the edges with Damian Wilson and Jalen Carter. I'm not Jalen Carter, Jalen Walker. Sometimes they'll, run, sometimes they'll give Michel Williams an edge and try to go with 2 more defensive linemen in there. But Rusty, I was talking to you about it earlier today. The fact that Georgia on pass heavy downs can use Jalen Walker and Damon Wilson on the ends of the line of scrimmage, and then they can go with some combination of Michel Williams, Tyrone Ingram-Dawkins, Warren Brinson, and Jordan Hall. They're on the interior and kind of work, throw bodies at it.
Inside out.
Yeah, exactly. They can, and not only that, but they can just keep coming with the bodies and keep guys fresh. Whoever didn't play on early downs can come in as a fresh body on that third down. You got Xavier Sori, who can also come in there and rush the passer from the edge. This is something that Georgia's kind of, in a way, Georgia's built for this. And I'm just really interested to see. It's really going to come down to how Missouri kind of is able to handle that home crowd. Little stat of note: Missouri averages 7 penalties a game in away games, and they haven't quite played anywhere like Athens just yet. Not like Georgia's going to be. November's in Athens. I've seen it many times. The blackout was in November. Tennessee was in November. Some of the big ones have been in November, and that's just kind of the way I look at it. Palmer, what have been kind of your thoughts, on this matchup as the week is going on, and also with the backdrop of being in front of Kirby twice this week and talking to players?
Yeah, so Russ, you mentioned CJ Allen, and Kirby said that he's been able to practice. He's day-to-day, which we all kind of know what day-to-day means in his mind, but that he's not 100%. They've been monitoring his GPS numbers and haven't really had him been doing a ton of sprinting and stuff. So they are controlling his reps. So I don't know, that he would be the answer to me. But I do agree with you absolutely that
this may be where you see Raylan Wilson.
Could be. And I go back to Kirby's comments after the opener when CJ was in there so much, and we asked him, hey, CJ Allen, it's not often you see a freshman out there, and he said, yeah, but we've got 2 really good ones, and and had Raylan not gotten hurt, he probably would be out there. So you're right, it could be where Raylan Wilson gets involved. To me, I think that we're going to learn a lot about the Georgia defense here. I think that, like you said, Brady Cook is somebody that gets the ball out really quickly. And like you said, that Kirby is aware of how quickly they get the ball out when he's mentioning it, and how difficult it is to just naturally have your defensive linemen beat guys and go get pressures. And, I think we're going to learn, was Georgia and their, the pressure that they got on Florida, was that a factor because of Florida's offensive line not being all that good, specifically the right tackle that got beat a couple of times? Or are these guys difference makers? Is Jalen Walker a difference maker? Is Tyrone Ingram-Dawkins a difference maker? Is Marvin Jones Jr. a difference? Damon Wilson, Michel Williams. It's a ton of talent. Absolutely is a ton of talent. When they play up to the way that they played against Florida, we saw what this defense can be. But I think that we're going to learn a lot about this group. And look, it's a name we haven't mentioned here, talking about Missouri and previewing them is Cody Schrader. They can run the ball, and Brady Cook can run the ball as well. So I'm really keeping an eye on those edge players, not only for their ability to get after the quarterback, but also to contain the run. Because if you're Missouri and you've got a quarterback that can move, and you've seen that Auburn film, I think we know what's going to happen. They're going to try to attack that weakness in Georgia's run defense a little bit. And How's Georgia going to respond? CJ Allen had a misfit there where he didn't necessarily come over the top completely. Jamon Dumas-Johnson didn't have his best game. You got to have those inside linebackers play really well. You got to have your outside linebackers play really well. And then ultimately, getting a push up front, getting after the quarterback, and being able to defend these receivers. This is going to take an all-out team effort on the defensive side of the football for Georgia. Jake, you're muted.
Jake, you're muted. He looks great talking.
Oh, I gotta quit that.
You look deep in thought, though.
I know I was, dude. I was bringing it. It won't even be the same now, and I can't even do it right. But I look back at last year's game, and I was looking back at the play-by-play for some reason. I can't even remember why I was doing it, and I noticed there were a few chunk runs for Missouri in that game. Now, there was a 25-yard. There was a long one that I've highlighted a couple of times where Dominic Lovett was getting, as a Missouri Tiger, was blocking Malachi Starks. And, Missouri breaks off the long run, and Dominic Lovett kind of turns his head to watch the play. And when he turns his head, Malachi Starks turns his head. And that's the only reason Malachi Starks saw it. And then Starks runs it down. Georgia forces a field goal there. I mean, it's just one of those things that you look at, and that was probably a huge difference in that game. But I think the run game is a big concern. I mean, I think it is a big concern. And I think Georgia this is different because Missouri is different in the run game. They don't run duo and inside zone a ton at you. They do some pin and pull stuff, but their bread and butter is outside zone. And that's nobody's bread and butter anymore. This ain't, the late 90s Broncos, all right? This is not Mike Shanahan cutting the backside down with Shannon Sharp and, just running Terrell Davis and, to the stretch play all the time. Nobody hardly does that anymore, but Missouri does. And Georgia's going to have to fit it up right because they found seams against Kentucky all game long. And it was, especially there in the second half. Me and Rusty talked about it today. Missouri also hit a fade ball to a gunner on punt team.
Damnedest thing I've ever seen.
I've never seen it before in my life.
Damnedest thing I've ever seen. That's the most Georgia 1990 to 2009 thing I've ever seen in my life. Yeah,
100%. Like that was something that that would have happened with South Carolina at Georgia. That would have happened in that South Carolina at Georgia game in 2011. That's something that would have happened in that game. I mean, hell, Melvin Ingram ripped off a 75-yard run, D lineman, on punt team. So that was wild. Rusty, let's get into recruiting here real quick before we chop some wood. What are you thinking about this weekend in terms of recruiting?
I think for me, kind of the headliner would be Cam Michel, the 4-star athlete out of Statesboro. I mean, this is a guy that Georgia's recruited a long time at defensive back. Tennessee and Colorado have told him, hey, you can play wide receiver. Obviously, that was something that caught his attention, and Georgia has talked with him, from my understanding, that, hey, there's an opportunity here for you to play some wide receiver. Now, does that mean he's only going to be a wide receiver? I'm not sure. Or, hey, you can play DB, and we'll give you some packages to where you can play wide receiver. Travis Hunter's doing it at Colorado, and that's obviously what they have sold him on. So, we've talked about Cam Michel now for a long time, and he's a 10,500, 10,600, 200-pound guy, 6'1". Those are hard to find. Statesboro, that part of the state is in particular has been very good to Georgia over the years, and I felt like a year ago right now Georgia was clearly in the lead, but kind of shifted for him, like maybe I want to play offense. So to get him back, this is a big visit, and I'm sure that he will be one of those. If you follow us, Matt Godwin has talked about that Kirby Smart only gets to meet with a certain amount face to face before the game, and I would be very surprised if Cam Michel is not one of those. Now, Kirby does meet with guys afterwards, but those kind of guys that he makes sure that he gets to talk to before the game, maybe 5 or 6 out of the whole day. So I think Cam Michel is the guy that is one of the guys that can really make a difference in this class, so to speak, at the end. Because I think he can play safety, and if he wants to play wide receiver, Georgia's going to give him an opportunity to play some packages as well.
Absolutely. And listen, if you want to see the list, early list, it's over at DawgsHQ. a prospect committed to another not another SEC school, another Power 5 school, 4-star kid. And you probably want to be on our site come Saturday, because I just got a feeling somebody's going to pop up. I mean, no inside yet. It's just one of those games that, here on Friday, we'll start to hear a little something and somebody pop up. I may be wrong on that, but we'll see if it works out that way. All right, listen, something else that's popping up, all right, is we got a new partner.
Oh, we went big time.
We've got a new partner.
Speaking of Colorado, we're blinging now.
Yeah. Listen, this is, and maybe they'll send us one of these. We'd love to have it. The special edition college football playoff watch. I mean, look at that. That is outrageous. They've got men's styles. They've got women's styles. These things are so sharp. Listen, if you're looking for the perfect gift for a Bulldog fan, all right, who has everything or almost, because they don't have this yet, then you need to check out these new Georgia National Championship timepieces by Axia. All right. They're heirloom quality. They're Swiss-made, mechanical. This perfect gift for a man or a woman, and it's a way to celebrate the Bulldogs' historic back-to-back national championship. College football playoff era, never been done before, may not ever be done again. You got to check out these gorgeous timepieces from Axia watches. If you want to visit their website, it's AXIA.com. That's AXAIA, time. That's a lot of vowels. Time.com. And also, if you're looking for something a little bit extra special, Palmer, I need you to get this pulled up too. There's a way that you can partner with the Classic City Collective here. And that's with the limited edition Kirby Smart autograph collection, with the majority of the proceeds going directly back to Georgia's Classic City Collective and supporting the UGA student athletes. There's no better way to commemorate the Dogs' back-to-back national championship than with one of these amazing timepieces. Check out the website, axiatime.com. That's AXIA time.com. And these watches, they tell so much more than time. All right, let's go and let's chop a little wood. Let's go ahead and chop a little wood right now. And Palmer, you haven't had anything to do this whole show. You haven't been producing and talking and everything else. So why don't you start us off, and let's put you on the spot and make it real. I'm stalling for you a little bit, so maybe you can think about something. I don't know.
Yeah, I appreciate the stall, because for a moment there I was like, man,
we are chopping wood on Axia timepieces real fast.
Yeah. No, I got something I'll chop wood about, and I know folks are here for football coverage, but look, Georgia basketball has been hot. And when you bring in the son of a UGA legend, it is absolutely worth mentioning. Jacob Wilkins commits to Georgia yesterday. Son, of course, of Dominique Wilkins, NBA Hall of Famer, Georgia legend.
I did a windmill dunk on my foam basketball goal yesterday. Whenever I heard, it was awesome.
With your banged up foot.
Yeah, I did it with the boot on.
Wow. Jacob standing at 6'8", according to On3, but his dad says he's closer to 6'11". So look, he's a 2025 prospect. Those numbers are going to continue to change, and his ranking could continue to change. But right now it's pretty dang good. Number 22 overall for the class of 2025 by On3. Number 7 small forward. He currently plays for Grayson, transferred over there from Parkview. Look, this kid can get it. This kid is really, really good. And,
he's wearing 21, right?
Say what?
He's going to wear 21. Now they're going to let him wear 21.
That's the rumor out there, that they're going to bring it down out of the rafters just for him to wear.
Listen, we need to not forget. I know he's Dominique's son, okay, but Damian also played at Georgia, and there's some kinfolk there, okay. This is a Georgia thing. This is a Wilkins thing, a Georgia thing too. So I didn't want Damian to get any disrespect. I see him from time to time, and he's a good guy. Yeah. So. Look, this is exciting for Georgia. They continue to do really well on the recruiting trail. I think that's always an exciting thing, is when you can get not just football going, but get basketball going as well. They had an exhibition. They showed some exciting potential on Monday, first official game of the season
next Monday. And I see Uncle Glenn's comments here. Palmer with more to come. There could be. They've got a couple of prospects out there in the class of 2024 that they are in on, and they already have 5-star commit Asa Newell in the fold. So chopping wood about Georgia basketball and, exciting times for Mike White.
Absolutely. Rusty, I'll go next if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
All right, listen. I know he's a controversial figure, and he'll always be probably known for his temper and maybe being a bully from time to time. But I have heard enough stories to know that Bob Knight had a big impact on a lot of people. And I don't want to sit here and act like I was a huge Bobby Knight fan. There were times where I looked and I was like, man, I wouldn't send my kid to play for that guy ever. And I would have said that for a long time until years ago. I talked to a guy. I was actually in Indianapolis, and I talked to a guy who was an Indiana alum, and he talked about Bob Knight, and he was a student manager, or claimed to be a student manager on one of Bobby Knight's Hoosier teams back in the mid '80s. And he talked about, or maybe it was late '80s. He talked about kind of how Bobby Knight was the same mean, hard-nosed guy every single day. But when it came to people who served the program and to people that gave their time to the program, he was a jam-up dude, and he poured into people's lives. And listen, he's dead at the age of 83. Lived a long life, and probably had some moments he'd like to take back. Probably had some moments that he's not at all proud of. Like all of us, really, being in the public eye like that. But Bobby Knight, man, what a run. The guy won a lot of ball games, and you see former player after former player. I know a couple of them won't, but a lot of them have come out and talked about how much he has impacted their life. Mike Krzyzewski, obviously a big impact on his coaching career as well. But, listen, one of the greats. He did a great job at it. I didn't know him as a man, but I've heard enough stories about him to know that he made a difference for the people that were around him. And, sometimes I think it kind of goes to what Kirby Smart talked about at SEC Media Days, was the cost of leadership. And maybe he went a little too far, maybe strengths, weaknesses to extreme, all that stuff. But he led a lot of people in the right direction and accomplished some great things. And, very unique figure in the history of sports, and a guy that, I've known about for as long as I've been following sports. So rest in peace, Bobby Knight.
I got one, and I didn't really know where I was going to go tonight, and maybe Dylan Brooks gave me a sign because I just thought about this yesterday, and I still follow him on social media, still kind of friends with him on Facebook. And did his career go the way he thought it would, and made some of us thought? No. Bryce Ramsey, committed to Georgia, and he was one of those, didn't really know which way he was going to go. He had one of the best arms of steel I've ever seen. He did Kirby Smart a favor by staying that last year when he could have went and played some other places, but he stayed one more year. But I'm gonna chop wood, because if you follow him on any social media, I'm not sure there's that former Georgia player that talks more than Bryce Ramsey about Georgia. And he will let you know right now that he is a Bulldog. He will let you know right now what he thinks about Kirby Smart. If you were to say something bad about Kirby Smart, it'd probably be on with Bryce Ramsey. And it was funny because I think last night he was the first post that I saw. As soon as they were number 2, he was like, right where Kirby wants them. Like, that's all. I think his quote was, that's all Kirby needs. Turn him loose with this. You know what I mean? So you look at Bryce, and did it go the way? He could obviously have a sour kind of feeling about never kind of being the guy at Georgia. But I don't know if there's a more proud alumni and somebody that loves Georgia based off how he talks. And I'm telling you now, he talks it. He don't sugarcoat things anymore. And that's a really cool thing to see. Someone like that is kind of still vested that much into a program, into a guy that didn't recruit him, played for him for 1 year. But that you forget about people like that, and this guy's moved on into life. I tell you a quick Bryce Ramsey story. I went down to film the Michael Morris silent commit, and I didn't tell a soul. Went and filmed it how he wanted to do it. And I'm sitting there in Kingsland, Georgia, and I go to a gas station, and I'm going to drive back home. And I hear somebody go, "Hey, Rusty Mansell?" I turn around, it's Bryce. And he said, "What are you doing here?" I said, I saw some kids in Jacksonville. I'm stopping. I'm coming back up the road. I didn't want to tell him because Micah, this was top secret stuff, and I went and filmed a bunch of stuff, and we were putting it together for Micah. And I just remember Bryce catching me at the gas station. So when Micah committed publicly, like 5 months later, well, I held on to that tape for like 4 or 5 months, and like 5 months later, when Micah from Camden County committed, I text Bryce or sent him a message that said, "That was the reason I was there that night." And he goes, "No wonder you lied to me. Good job." You know what I mean? So when you think about Bryce Ramsey, you think about that dude is vested. That dude loves Georgia Bulldogs. And man, he talks it about his dogs.
Yeah, and this is kind of your reminder for everybody listening. And listen, I know fans get heated and get in their emotions, but between guys like Bryce Ramsey and Terrence Edwards, inducted Georgia Hall of Fame, and all the things he did for Georgia, but kind of all the stuff, all the riffraff he caught for dropping a pass in Jacksonville one time. Doesn't matter what people say about him or how bad it goes. It shows you how much they put into it.
Oh, dude.
They just still love it. They've got so many reasons to just back away from it, not care about it as much as they should or as much as they could. But they still love it, and they still follow it as closely as many of you guys do, and they love every minute of it. This has been the Georgia Show. Listen, we'll be back for a pregame show Saturday morning at 7 a.m. Tune in, check it out. We will definitely have that for you. We got
a coffee sponsor for that yet?
I know, right? We'll have a post-game show. We'll break that down. We'll have a Sunday show, Bark After Dark, on Monday, working on a guest right now that I think Georgia fans will enjoy. And then we'll be back with you next Wednesday. That's kind of our programming schedule. Come on over to the website, 1 month for $1, and we'd love to have you. So
I'm gonna update the recruiting visit list first thing in the morning. Now, I mean, it's not. I'm gonna have a daily update on who we expect. So what you saw today, if you remember, DawgsHQ are not the only names, and we'll keep adding as the week goes on. I get a lot of questions about that.
Why the hell are you over there making hand motions, by the way? What's up with that?
I'm saying it just keeps rolling at Dogs.
Oh, I thought you were trying to get me to wrap it up.
No. We keep it rolling. All right.
He's telling his roommate to go with that parlay. Go ahead and give me that second half on Bowling Green. Go ahead. I've been in those college days. I've been there.
He's trying to hedge. He's trying to hedge in bets. All right, y'all take it easy, and we'll catch up with you later on in the week with our pregame show.